What's up, Express Nation? It's Rivalry Week, and we had a great slate of games on Black Friday. 16-9 game between Georgia and Georgia Tech. That was a lot more of a defensive battle than what I honestly expected. And if Georgia Tech could have played that type of defense in both their losses, they would be undefeated right now. Why Georgia Tech decided to actually show up and play some amount of defense out of their DB unit doesn't make any sense to me. And the only thing I could account for is the way Bobo was scheming and the fact that we don't really have any speed out of our receivers. So that's why their DBs were able to stay locked a little bit better. But outside of that, I really don't understand how Georgia Tech's defense finally showed up. Had the best defensive performance of the entire season. Granted, they did give up 16 points, but I think they only gave up one touchdown that entire game. So where that defense was at for this entire season, I have no idea. But to kick things off, we had Ole Miss versus Mississippi State. If you go look at my socials, I told everyone a fight is guaranteed. You're going to see at least one fight, especially in the Ole Miss Mississippi State game. And sure enough, they had a fight in the first half. So they didn't wait very long for the pressure to boil over. First half, really the first quarter of the game, it looked like it was going to be a shootout. Second quarter rolled around, it looked more of a defensive battle, and I liked how both defenses kind of settled in. You had that fight, and I think that fight is what unlocked Ole Miss to get back into this game. And second half came, it was slash after slash, and they were just darting them up. Trinidad Chambliss had a great second half. First half was a little 50-50, like I said, because of the defensive stand that Mississippi State was holding, but Trinidad and Lacey, they found their groove in the second half. They went on to win 38-19. Utah-Kansas was a great game all up until like the last 6 minutes of the fourth quarter. Utah started taking reins, which is really easy to do when your quarterback throws. I think he threw 4 interceptions, Daniels did. He had just a terrible 3 interceptions. He had just a terrible day. I think one went back for a pick 6. Yes, one did go back for a pick 6, which was the DB's second pick 6 of the season. Hold on, let me get his name. I want to get his name. No. Elijah Davis. He has 2 pick 6s on the year. I'm kind of spotlight Davis real quick because, everyone has seen the finalists, especially for the Jim Thorpe Award that came out. Go look at his ranking. This man has 25 solo, 2 interceptions, 2 pass deflections, and now you can count 2 pick 6s on the year. So he has 49 total tackles, or 65 total tackles. No, my bad, 33 total tackles. I'm looking at his stat sheet. So wrong. 2 pass deflections, 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, 2 pass deflections. I said that, 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns. I mean, pretty under radar corner. I mean, he shows up more in games than a lot of DBs. Caleb Downs, not trying to call out any names. Back to what happened. Indiana routs Purdue. Very predictable. I don't think anyone had any doubts in their mind. Arizona stuns Arizona State at home. I don't honestly think it was a stun the way everyone in my comment section was talking about. They were like, Arizona's going to handle Arizona State, in which they did. And then Texas versus Texas A&M. Had all my hopes that A&M would win, mainly being a Georgia fan. I don't want to see Georgia play in the SEC championship. But guess what? We're locked for the championship game. And all because A&M decides they're going to play terrible ball. They couldn't run the ball against Texas. Marcel Reed looked abysmal against Texas, going 20 for 32, 2 interceptions. They just really couldn't get anything going on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, he looked off rhythm. Like I said, you couldn't get the running game going. Granted, I did fall asleep after the first half, fell a little under the weather, woke up in the fourth, and Texas was pretty much holding the game. And that kind of leads me into the Heisman conversation real quick before we talk about the great slate of games that we have this Saturday afternoon. First thing I want to talk about is Heisman conversation. Marcel Reed and Gunnar Stockton, personally for me, Gunnar was a guy that I wanted to see in the Heisman conversation, being a Georgia fan. But when he threw 2 interceptions and 1 touchdown in the last 2 games, went right under 50%. I mean, that's just not Heisman worthy. I mean, if you look at his stat totals for the year, he's sitting at 2,500 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 86 QBR, which is 5th in the country. And I want to say he's sitting right there at 70% completion rating. I mean, I don't know if there's going to necessarily be stats in a performance that will put him in New York. I mean, he has 400 yards, 3.9 yard average with 8 more touchdowns. So he has just right at 3,000 total yards, 28 total touchdowns. to just 5 turnovers, but I don't think that's going to be worthy enough to put him in New York. And then Marcel Reed, another sloppy performance, definitely is not going to put him in New York. I already didn't have him in my 5. I didn't think he was worthy enough to be considered for New York just because of the high number of interceptions, the inconsistency in his play, especially in that South Carolina game that he was in. I know everyone's going to rave about his second half performance, but for me, I mean, 20 for 32, 2 interceptions is not necessarily Heisman worthy. I mean, he does sit right at 2,900 total yards passing, 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 77 on the QBR rating, but he's thrown at a 61% on the season, 4,600 yards on the ground, 5.2 yard average with 6 more touchdowns. So he's sitting right at 31 total touchdowns. I think he has 1 fumble to account for, so 11 total turnovers, and just right at almost 3,300 total yards. So, I mean, yardage-wise, he's definitely in the conversation. He has some of the most yardage among any of the quarterbacks in play right now. Touchdown-wise, I think he's now top 3 in total touchdowns, but his turnover rate it's crazy. His completion percentage is abysmal, so, like, I don't think that's necessarily Heisman worthy. Like I said, my Heisman contenders have stood tall for the test of the season. For me, it is Fernando Mendoza. Fernando Mendoza he's my front runner, right at 2,700 total yards, 32 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 88.1 QBR rating. He throws another 6 touchdowns on the ground with 243 total yards on the ground, putting him right there at 3,000 total yards, 39 total touchdowns, the 5 interceptions. To me, I think he's the Heisman frontrunner. I would honestly say, depending on, and this is how the quarterback case is really looking, depending on how Diego plays tonight, he is somebody that can really solidify himself in that conversation. You look at the 2,900 total yards, 26 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He has 8 more touchdowns on the ground. So it puts him right there at 34 total touchdowns. I think that is second in the country. He has 661 total yards. He's just over 6,500 total yards on the season, 34 total touchdowns to 6 interceptions with an 86.8 QBR rating. And he's throwing at a 71% completion rating. I don't think that's a bad number to have. I do think if Diego shows out against Tennessee tonight, he's locked himself into the Heisman conversation. Another quarterback that's kind of hoping on a great performance is Julian Sayin. Julian has a 2,800 yards, 27 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. He's throwing at a 79% completion rating and a 90 QBR. He goes out there, throws 3 touchdowns, get his passing yards number up to over 3,000 with those 4 interceptions, keeps his completion rating right there at 79, almost 80. Julian is a lock at the quarterback position. There is a quarterback that I do think that is highly underrated. I personally would have him in the conversation. There's actually 2. But the reason why they're not in the conversation is because one plays an independent, the other one plays for a group of 5. Freshman Drew Mestamaker. He's throwing at a 70% completion rating, 3,800 yards, 29 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, add 5 more on the ground. He's sitting right there at 34 total touchdowns, the 4 interceptions, a 75.3 QBR with a 70% completion rating. Joe Fagnoga, I always pronounce his name wrong. He's sitting right there at a 68% completion rating, 3,400 yards, 28 touchdowns in the air to 1 interception, add 3 more from the ground, put him at right there at 31 total touchdowns to 1 turnover. I mean, that's phenomenal quarterback play. So if you have to look at the quarterback position and you're going to have to nominate, I'll say at least 3 guys. You're going to nominate Fernando Mendoza for sure. The next 2 are going to be filled with how they perform this week. I would say if Diego lights out with no turnovers, he's in. Julian Sayin lights out, no turnovers, he's in. I think Diego's a little bit better of a lot than anybody else. Simpson's another guy, so I think Fernando Mendoza is the only guaranteed lock outside of Julian Love or Jeremiah Love right now, with his 1,300 rushing yards and 0.1 average with 17 touchdowns on the ground. And I mean, he has another 274 and 3 touchdowns through the air with a 10.5 average per catch. So him sitting at right there at 1,500 total yards, 20 total touchdowns, has kind of locked himself in for the Heisman case. I would say Amon Hardy and Emmett Johnson are like right there behind him. I would honestly love to see Caleb Hawkins. I honestly think he should have even been considered for the best running back in the country this year. Because, I mean, 1,200 yards, 23 touchdowns as a true freshman. I mean, absolutely crazy numbers. 3 more on the ground, 26 total touchdowns, 6.3 yards a carry. I mean, this guy, just because he's in the group of 5, he's not going to get any amount of love. But this guy right here, off of just 193 carries, I think should definitely have been in the Heisman conversation. One of those dark horse guys. He's definitely should have been nominated for the best running back in the country, right, with Jeremiah Love. I think the 3 running backs that should have got nominated was Jeremiah Love, Caleb Hawkins, and I'll say it, I will go with Emmett Johnson out of Nebraska. He's probably been one of the best overall running backs. I know his touchdowns numbers don't really amount to a lot of the other guys, but his yards per carries, his total yardage, then he's sitting right there at 1,800 total yards, 15 touchdowns, 5.8 yards an average per rush, 8 yards of catch. I mean, total yard wise, he leads the country, I do say, among all running backs. So for me, those are the 3 nominees. Now, we're going to get out of the Heisman conversation because we have a lot of ball to talk about. We can talk about who got snubbed all we want to. We have a lot of great games. I think Miami-Pitt's going to be a great game. If Pitt run game can show up like they did against Tech, which it's Tech's defense at the end of the day, but it's a home game for Pitt. So if Pitt can show up against Miami, then Pitt's locking themselves up for an ACC championship. I want to say it should go, if Pitt wins, and Pitt needs a SMU loss or a Virginia loss to get in. They need a win with a loss, and they're in. I think Pitt could really get it done at home. I like what Pitt brings to the table. I think Miami has been showing great ball good ball recently, but those inconsistencies, especially out of the quarterback, I do find skeptical. If Pitt shows any amount of good defense today, put any pressure on Carson Beck, I think it could be a tough day for Miami, but I'm going to go with the underdog in Pitt. I think Oregon-Washington is going to be another good game. I think a lot of people aren't going to want to watch it because of how Washington has underperformed recently. And I think that's what's going to give Oregon the edge, because I don't know what has happened to Washington recently, but they just hasn't played up to par to what they've played at the beginning of the season. I think it's just because of the defensive teams that they've played. They've played a lot better defenses than what they were playing at the beginning of the year. So Oregon, obviously, I think Oregon, they're going to get the good win. I think BYU is going to get an easy win. Even though Texas Tech is going to Morgantown, I don't see that being too much of a problem. But now West Virginia can be throwing a little bit of an upset. But I'm going to ride with the favorites in Texas Tech, Oregon, BYU. I was considering LSU, Oklahoma to be kind of a trap game scenario, but I think Oklahoma is going to get the job done. I would like to see them put up a little bit more of an offensive game, but with the way LSU's kind of struggled off the field antics that I've seen recently, especially coming into the game, I don't see a serious LSU team. So I'm going to ride Oklahoma. I think Virginia is going to get the win over Virginia Tech at home, with Chandler Morris back. The way they played against Duke, that's one of the best games they've played all season against a competitive ACC teams. I like their chances making it to the ACC championship, especially now with Georgia Tech out the way. They're front and center as the leading team in the ACC. So I'm going to go with Virginia. I think USC is going to handle business against UCLA. SMU Cal is a real skeptic team. I think they can really show spoiler if want to, because they've already proven they can show spoiler once this year, but once a team plays spoiler once, I don't really see them playing spoiler twice. So for those reasons, I'm going to go SMU. In the 3 games that I'm watching tonight, they're going to be the first 12 o'clock game is Ohio State, Michigan. I know I'm kind of doing my upset order first, but my upset game of the week will be Michigan over Ohio State. I think Michigan has shown a proven script over the last 4 years. 72 yards last year, 158, 254, 299. And then when you look at the running back group that they have coming in this year, probably the best, if not, they're definitely top 3 running back duo between Haynes and Marshall. Haynes is averaging 7.1, 857, 10 touchdowns. Marshall, 6.1, 871, 10 touchdowns. I mean, when you look at they're identical through and through. And I think with the average of 223.5 yards on the ground is going to be a great advantage for them, especially how they've been able to beat Ohio State. So I think this year's team is a very reminiscent to last year's Michigan team, and how their quarterback was kind of 50-50 up and down. But I think with Bryce Underwood, if they can get a good rhythm with Underwood, kind of how they got the great rhythm against Maryland, then I think Michigan has a true shot on upsetting Ohio State, which will throw a wrench into the entire top 12 rankings. But with Georgia winning, A&M losing, that's definitely going to be something that everyone's going to look at. But I don't think it's going to be as crazy as many people think, but it will throw a wrench into them. So for me, especially with the fact that I don't think Ohio State has been tested against a competent defense this entire season. I don't think there's been a true defense outside of the Texas game that they have played like a top tier defense. And Michigan's going to be the second best defense they have played up to this point, or this will be the second best defense they played all year. So for that being the case, I don't think Julian Sayin's been tested. I don't think he's been able to really show any escape out the pocket ability. So for all those reasons, I'm going to run with the underdog in Michigan. Then you got Tennessee Vandy. I was just harping on how if Diego Pavia comes out, shows a great game, he's in New York. Well, also, if Vandy comes out, shows a great game, beats Tennessee not in Knoxville, they're the 14th best team in the country. This win very well could put them over Miami in the rankings, especially if Miami loses. Now, right now, Vandy fans are hoping that Alabama loses, Miami loses. Those are the two teams that you kind of want to see lose this weekend because that kind of puts you front and center right there in the playoffs. And you don't have to go to the SEC championship, but you still have to you got to take care of business. So for me, I'm a big Diego fan. Love seeing what he's done all season. And for that reason, I think Diego's going to go out and put on a great clinic against Tennessee, against a defense that is very prone to allow big explosive plays. For me, give me Vandy over Tennessee. And then the last game, I think this is a game that a lot of folks are going to have on their radar at 7:30. Alabama going to Auburn, night game, 7:30. Now, Alabama has had some trouble at night when they go to Auburn. And I'm hoping, as a Georgia fan and a lot of other teams, the case. But then again, I'd much rather face Alabama a second time than have to face Ole Miss a second time. I think that offense from Ole Miss is phenomenal, and you can never beat a team twice. I truly believe in that statement, and I think if it does happen, you just had their number. But I do believe in the statement that you're not going to beat a team twice. So I would love to see Alabama a second time. I would not love to see Ole Miss a second time. So for me, I'm rooting for Auburn. But I can't go against the paper. I can't go against what they've shown. Auburn has been questionable. I don't think Auburn's really been able to put together much of an offense when they face a competent team. And I think a lot of that's going to be shown tonight. Announce a rivalry game. Anything can happen. I want to be biased and go Auburn because I just don't want to root for Alabama. Screw it. It's the last game of the night. We're going to go Auburn over Alabama. I was not going to be biased, but I can't do it. Give me Auburn over Alabama. I think Auburn can get it done. It's at night. A great environment for a home game for Auburn. I think last week that offense came together, even though they did play Mercer. I think they're going to take a lot of that. I think Alabama being exposed against Oklahoma, Auburn's going to use a lot of that on film. This is not the same adapt and conquer Alabama team we've seen in the last decade. This is a new Alabama team that is prone to lose on the road. So for those reasons, give me the Tigers. Kind of recapping what we got. We got two upsets this week. We got the Wolverines over the Buckeyes. We got the Tigers over the Tide. And then we got the favorite Commodores over the Volunteers. And those are the three big games of the week. Obviously, we got a couple more on the slate, which I'm going to be posting on my social if you want to see me talk about those games also. Like always, make sure you subscribe, like, share this among your friends. Use this in debates. And always check out the social medias. I have them in the description links. And let's enjoy some rivalry football.